It's Saturday, January the 28th. The days are running out, sadly, but they're not getting any less eventful. Today, fantastic day. We've really, the desert, the steppe and the sand and the open plains and the lines of mountains of Central Arabia really are behind us now. And as Philby said, we're crossing the Great Barrier, which fronts the Western Sea, the sea the barrier that separates the central deserts of Arabia from Jeddah and the coastline. We left Taif after a couple of days of exploring, and what beautiful days they were. What a beautiful city Taif is. But like Philby, we were getting a little bit restless. We needed to move on, and all the sophistication and the civilization of Taif. We were quite keen to get back to the simplicity of our travelling and camping wild in the desert. And at this point, in his book, Philby was really able to catch up on the news in Taif. So accessible is it relatively to Jeddah. And he wrote in his book, The Heart of Arabia, that I've been without news of the war since my departure from Bahrain 6 weeks before, and received the cheerful tidings of the great victories in Palestine and the capture of Jerusalem. The columns of the Qibla, published daily at Mecca and received at Taif within 24 hours of publication, were full of the dramatic changes which the war situation had undergone. The latest issue received discussed the significance of Germany's latest peace note. I'd been told in error that at Taif I should find myself at the end of a telegraph and telephone line, though this was sadly untrue. I felt that my hosts were at any rate not cut off with the world, as were the denizens of Central Arabia. Here at least the affairs of the world were discussed as contemporary events. My travelling comrades sat around the room silent and awkward as naughty children, marvelling at the easy manners and courtly geniality of these men. Arabs like themselves, but civilised. Muslims like themselves, but exercising a reasonable discrimination between the dictates of their creed and those of their comfort. When asked Badr of me the following day, are we going to move on from here? The air of the town is close and cramped, and I yearn for the desert and the camels and the black tents. And I have to say, after 2 days of exploring the delights of Taif, that yearning was very much alive in us. The chapter, to reflect this change, the chapter of Philby's book is now referred to as the Holy Land, because we are approaching the holy city of Mecca. At one point today, I think we were only 37 kilometres away from Mecca, which is the holiest city in Islam. 1.9 billion Muslims around the world face Mecca 5 times a day in prayer. It is a hugely significant place. Philby was not going to Mecca. I think his men may have harboured secret desires to do so, but Philby was really intent on reaching Jeddah, because whilst he was in Taif, he received a message from Sharif Hussein of Mecca to proceed with all haste to meet Sharif Hussein in Jeddah. So Philby, like us, started moving, and yesterday we reached a small wadi. Campsites are much harder to find now. We're in the mountains. The wadis are quite tight, quite rocky. It's quite hard to find flat ground. So last night we were very lucky. Alan did a great job of finding a good camp spot last night, and what a difference. We really are on the sort of crest, or even one would argue on the seaward side of this huge line of mountains called the Hijaz Mountains. And the difference in temperature is very noticeable. I think last night it only dropped to about 13 or 10 degrees last night it dropped down to. But there were mosquitoes aplenty, which we haven't had any issues with so far. But lots of cicadas calling, so the sort of nature's orchestra as we fell asleep last night was quite beautiful. Lots of purple sunbirds, bright yellow weaver birds with their nests hanging under the branches of the acacia trees, and just as the darkness came upon us, we could hear the scops owls, the African scops owls, calling to each other with their distinctive call across the wadi from tree to tree. So we counted at about 4,000 feet last night, or just slightly less. Probably, I would say, the worst night's sleep I've had on the entire trip. Just mosquitoes everywhere. You cover your face, but then that gets quite claustrophobic. But anyway, they did seem to clear off at one point, or am I kidding myself? I was certainly got plenty of lumps all over my body this morning. So hopefully tonight's a wee bit better. We really did pick up on Philby's trail today. We were able to follow the wadi that he followed down from Taif to a village called Medhik, and in a place called Wadi Al Laimun, and it is actually Wadi Lemon. It translates into Wadi Lemon, and here Philby overnighted, and he was clearly incredibly moved by what he saw, as were we. Some lovely old buildings, and the richness of the land in the valley bottoms. It's hard to believe that you're in Arabia. It's little patchworks of green fields, probably every conceivable crop you can imagine being cultivated by hand by people. Not a tractor in sight, not much machinery in sight, everything being cultivated by hand. And it was when Philby's train entered Wadi Al Laimun, he saw the first palms of the village of Medhik, which we explored today, and it was absolutely wonderful because, as always, a curious local came out of the house and came over to us, and it was just great to engage because they're always such characters and always so friendly. And amazingly, and this doesn't surprise me really, bearing in mind what's happened on this journey, his grandfather and Reem's grandfather Abdullah Philby met many years ago, and these connections continue even right up until almost the end. And Philby wrote, so we have a photograph in his book which we were able to wander around the village and find the exact spot where he took to take this photograph, which was great. One last connection really before we enter Jeddah tomorrow. But he wrote in his book, a few steps brought us to an orchard, at whose edge we watered our camels at the babbling brook of Ain Bardan, a perennial stream rising in the hillside on our left and providing the whole of the Medhik settlement with water. Continuing, we found the valley straightened by sheer precipices on either side to a narrow neck, beyond which the tropical beauty of Wadi Al Laimun burst suddenly upon our admiring gaze. Orange and palm groves, banana plantations, fields of young corn and lucerne blended their different shades of green in a wild highland setting. On either side the mountains reared their rugged heads to a height of 1,000 feet, and here and there stood lesser knolls of rock crowned with hamlets of rough-hewn stone, and we explored some of those hamlets or the remains of them today. In the whole breadth of Arabia I had not seen beauty such as this. In all my wanderings thereafter I saw not its like or equal. Such might be Taif in springtide, but here was nature unadorned and perfect. So, like us, at this stage of the game, Philby was one day away from Jeddah. Our plan is to overnight here tonight. We're camping now. Sunset's getting later. The sun's just dropped behind the hills. I can see the golden glow there. You can possibly hear the sparrows calling in the acacia trees around me. You can possibly hear the buzz of a drone above my head, which one of the guys is flying, trying to film the campsite. But our plan is hopefully to have a better night than last night. Hopefully there won't be so many mosquitoes. And then tomorrow we will head down onto the flat plain called the Tihama, upon which Jeddah sits. And then we will end our journey from coast to coast, from sea to sea, by dipping our toe in the Red Sea at Jeddah.